What's up, guys? Welcome to my weekly Wednesday live this week. I've been writing a lot about food lately, to shifting gears a little bit from training, and I want to talk today about how you can learn to become a better cook. So, this is a process that I went through myself years ago. When I first moved into an apartment after my freshman year of college, I basically had no cooking skills at all. I could make things in the microwave, I could cook a frozen pizza in the oven, and I could make cereal or oatmeal or something like that. I was burning scrambled eggs all the time. It was really bad. So I put in the work to become a better cook because I wanted just to be more independent, make my own meals. I was a young person fresh out of the dining hall, and it was exciting to me. And I also was right around that time first starting to lose weight. And I recognized that if I wanted to control more of what I was eating, both in terms of quantity and quality of food, cooking it myself was one of the easiest ways to do that. So how did I go about learning to cook? So the first thing that I did was I went to a local used bookstore and I was browsing through the cookbook section. And I found a cookbook, I want to say it was Betty Crocker. It was some like old school, big, thick cookbook with a ton of recipes in it. I leafed through it. Most of the recipes seemed pretty straightforward, or at least a good chunk of them had a few ingredients. They didn't include a lot of fancy preparation techniques. And there was also an appendix in the back that listed out a bunch of basic cooking techniques, like how should I prepare certain vegetables or how should I prepare certain meats, and some really basic stuff. So I bought that, I read through it, and I just started making stuff. And this is one of the best ways that you can start to experiment with cooking. You don't have to go to a bookstore and buy a cookbook. These days there's so much good information on the internet. You can do a quick Google search for easy recipe for XYZ. Something that I'll do if I have some ingredients and I'm not sure how to use them is I'll say easy recipe and then I'll say the 2 ingredients. But you can find a ton of stuff, and I would just find things that are easy and then start playing around with them and trying them out. One of the websites that I like a lot for really great, easy, healthy recipes is called The Kitchen. It's kitchen without the E, so it's KITCHN. I have found that most of the stuff on their site is pretty straightforward and easy to make, and the vast majority of it is pretty healthy. I mean, they're gonna have like baked goods and stuff, but the bigger meals, the meat dishes, the vegetarian dishes, the vegetable dishes, they're all like pretty healthy. So that's a site that I would strongly recommend. I'm always sending out recipes from them to my newsletter, and a lot of my favorite recipes that I make all the time these days come from that website. So that's definitely one to check out. Another place that I like to find recipes are actually paleo cooking sites. So I don't follow a paleo diet, but most of those websites will also have a lot of healthy recipes focusing on like high quality protein sources and vegetables. One thing to just be aware of with that is sometimes they'll also have like paleofied versions of desserts and things like that, and that can get a little complicated and it's not really useful to you. So I would avoid that stuff, but focusing on the big main dishes or the side dishes, vegetable dishes from those types of sites has been really helpful for me. So a lot of the recipes that I use also come from those types of sites. Some that I really like are Nom Nom Paleo. She has a lot of like kind of Asian infused food. Stupid Easy Paleo is another good one. Well Fed is another good one. So those are places to just try things out. So again, find recipes with ingredients that you know you like, ingredient lists that are short, recipes that have short preparation time, something that looks like when you read it over you think, okay, I could do this, and it wouldn't be a huge hassle, it wouldn't take a ton of time, and it wouldn't really stretch my capabilities. That's how I first started to learn to cook, and that's what I would recommend for a lot of people. Now, kind of hand in hand with starting with recipes is learning some basic kitchen skills. So if you're not a great cook, I know you've had this experience where you pull up a recipe and you're just fumbling through it. It takes you forever to cut stuff up. It takes you forever to prep things. You mess things up. Like you don't really understand the instructions. So along with doing these basic recipes, I would encourage you to start to develop some kitchen skills. So the biggest ones that will have the most payoff are, first of all, some knife skills. So get a good chef's knife, which is like a big, it's a big long knife. You could Google it if you're not familiar with what it looks like. A quality cutting board, and just watch a couple of YouTube videos on the best way to cut vegetables, the best way to cut onions. There are some fast and relatively safe ways to do this where you won't be like individually cutting every single piece, because that's a huge pain in the ass and nobody has time for that. So that's the first thing that I would do, because that's gonna shave the most time off of your meal prep. And then beyond that, I would learn how to do some basic cooking things, like how to steam vegetables, how to roast something, how to grill something, whether it's on an outdoor grill if you're lucky enough to have one, or we just have like a stainless steel grill pan, or we use a George Foreman, like that's pretty simple stuff. How to cook a baked dish, like on a sheet pan or something like that. those types of things will allow you to cook a lot of different meals. Sauteing is another one, so cooking something in a pan on the oven. And again, if you don't know how to do something, there's so many really quick and high quality tutorial videos on YouTube. I would highly recommend just checking it out. That's by far the best place to learn a skill that's a visual skill. Have a video to keep you in check there. So first things first, find some basic recipes, try your hand with that stuff, and as you're doing that, second thing is to start to develop some basic cooking skills. If you feel like something's lacking, go on YouTube and watch a video. The next thing that's going to be really helpful as you're starting to cook a little bit more is to build a store pile of spices and oils and things like that in your pantry and in your freezer. So it's a pain if you're trying to cook stuff and every time you pull up a recipe you have to go to the store and buy like all of the spices and all of the pantry ingredients that go into the recipe. So what I would recommend, I have a list that I came up with in the blog post that I wrote, which I'll link to in the blurb on Facebook, or you can check it out on my website, which is carolinejesterfitness.com. But I have a list of the basic spices and oils and things that I use all the time. And what I would do is if you don't have them, I would just, every week you go to the grocery store, I would grab one or two things. So you're not spending $100 all at once buying spices, but you're gonna gradually grow your collection. And then you'll get to a point where you basically have everything that you'll need on a regular basis. You'll use it up, and then when you run out, you'll just buy more. So it doesn't have to be a huge undertaking or an expensive undertaking to build the stuff that you need to cook good tasting food. Another way you can do it is just notice in the recipes that you're using or from food you've eaten before what sort of spices or things you use a lot, and start to grab those. So that would be the third thing, is make sure that you have some sort of basic spice cabinet or pantry. Oils, acids like lemon juice and vinegars, those types of things will help your food taste better and allow you to make more of the recipes that you're finding online. And then the last thing is to make food that you like. So a lot of people struggle with cooking at home just because the food they make tastes like shit. So it doesn't need to be this way. It's really not as complicated as it seems to make good tasting food at home. One of the keys is, of course, having the right spices so that you can add flavor to your dishes. Another thing that I would recommend is when you're looking for recipes is to find things that mimic foods that you already know you like. So for example, I really like Asian cuisine and Latin cuisine, and I've gone online and found homemade recipes of all different types of things. I've made homemade pho, I've made homemade tacos that are pretty good, I've made different kinds of stir fries, or I've even made hot and sour soup at home. My boyfriend has a recipe for Indian food, or a template for Indian food that's really good. And these are things that you can make at home without a ton of hassle. So if you know you like a certain type of food, go online, look for easy recipe for XYZ, and see if it seems something you can tackle. You don't need to be at home cooking like bland chicken breasts and steamed broccoli and all of the stuff that you think that you need to eat. Because even if a food is the healthiest food in the world, if you don't like the way that you're eating, you're not going to be eating that way for long. So find ways to cook the food that you actually like to eat, and then you will be more likely to cook at home. So just to summarize, the 4 things that were most helpful for me when I was learning how to cook. First of all, I started with recipes. So you can find a cookbook that seems easy. You can go online and look for recipes, but that gives you a little bit of a guide, especially if you have no idea what you're doing and you don't know how to combine flavors. That kind of stuff can come later, but having a guide at first is helpful. Second thing is to learn some basic cooking skills. So improve your knife skills, learn how to steam, roast, saute, bake, grill, those really basic cooking techniques so that you can make food with greater ease and follow the recipes with greater ease. The third thing would be, as you're doing this, make sure that you're grabbing the spices, the oils and fats, and the acids that you'll need to make most recipes. So you don't need to have 100 things in your spice cabinet, but there are a number of spices that show up again and again. And if you have them, it'll be easier for you to make more things and your food will taste better. So that's a win-win. And then the last thing is just to eat food that you like. So don't force yourself to cook food just because you think it's healthy. If it tastes bad, or you're not gonna want to eat it. I would recommend Googling recipes that imitate your favorite restaurant meals, your favorite style of cuisine, and play around with that stuff because a lot of it's not as complicated as it seems. So along that line, I am putting together a PDF, a free PDF with some of my favorite meal templates and recipes for these kinds of things. The Indian recipe that we use, the stir fry that we use, things like that. So if you're interested in grabbing this when it's finished, I would love for you to sign up. I put a link in the Facebook information about this, and I'll put a link in my Instagram profile as well. So sign up there and you will be the first to get it when it's finished. And if you have other suggestions, if you're a great cook or you've overcome your inability to cook and you want to help other people out, if I missed something, please drop it in the comments or shoot me a DM so I can spread the information for everyone else. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good week.